So today I'm going to be talking about the key information about natural selection and the mechanisms of evolution. Specifically, today we're going to be looking at macro and microevolution, natural selection, mutations, and point mutation change. So there are two types of evolution. Microevolution, which is the evolution of an individual species over a short period of time. An example of this is natural selection. There's normally a change in the allele frequency that occurs over time within a population. So this is basically a mutation or a change in allele frequency inside of a population, which changes the phenotype characteristics to give it a increase or decrease chance in survival. Normally be an increase would be evolution, so it would progress the population. Macroevolution would be evolution of larger groups, as in different taxons. This evolution normally occurs to a common ancestor which breaks off into two new species. So first we'll be looking at the mechanisms of evolutionary change. This looks at the different ways that evolutionary can take place by genetic change in a population, with these examples being natural selection, mutations, and point mutation change. We'll look at these in greater detail. Natural selection. Natural selection can only occur to a species that can produce fertile offspring. So obviously, if a species can produce fertile offspring, that will be able to pass on the genetic material. Traits must be inherited via gamete mutation, not just cancers or scars. So if there's any traits to be inherited, they must go through the gametes. Because if it occurs to you, for example, a scar, there's no way you can pass it on. It's not in your gametes, so it won't genetically be passed on. However, if there's a mutation in the gametes, then this will be in every single cell of the newborn animal or the offspring. If natural selection is successful, then it will be predominant. Then the trait will be predominant in population. So natural selection. If there's a mutation and natural selection occurs and this mutation is successful, then it will be dominant in the population as it will give an advantage over other traits. So first of all, we're looking at mutation. This looks at phenotype. So this looks at a phenotype and all alleles that are expressed. So factors that must happen. So sexual crossover and recombination create mutations. This is because there's fragments of genes of genetic material being crossed over, and obviously mistakes can be made when this occurs. Mutation can also change the nucleotide sequence, which we'll look at later in greater detail. And examples are addition, substitution, deletion, frameshift, and inversion. So addition is an addition of a base in a genetic sequence. Substitution is the changing of a base in a genetic sequence. Example, a G for a T. Deletion is removal of a base. Frameshift is an addition of a base which will shift all the bases after to create different proteins, amino acids. And inversion is when they bases will flip. It's all examples of mutations. So now we're going to be looking at point mutations, which are a form of substitution, and this is a change of only one base. So first we have nonsense mutations. This is where there's a change in the sequence, creating a stop codon. So if this occurs, then obviously the amino acid will stop being created and probably will not be functional. There's missense mutations, a change in the sequence causing a different amino acid to be created. Obviously this is pretty big, so there'll be a change in the base sequence. So for example, a G is replaced with a T, and this will change the whole amino acid. So a completely different amino acid will be created, which will obviously stop the functionality of a protein. And silent mutations, where a base is substituted and doesn't make a difference to the eventual amino acid created. So for example, if a amino acid is coded GGG and the code GTG also codes to the same amino acid, then it will not make a difference. Similarly, if a G is replaced by another G, there'll be no difference. Thank you for listening.